This is Money, Motivation, and Mike, and I am your host, Michael Wainwright. In charge of all the controls, as always, the mothership, the man who runs the show, Jason Wright. And hello to you, world. This is the show that will change your life. You can always find us, info at mx3.vip. Please send us your comments and your questions and anything else you might want to tell us. mx3.vip, our website, where you can always find us as well for our YouTube channel, youtube.com/at MX3 podcast. A little update here on where we're continuing to thrive. And thank you, audience. We now have in our hands over the last 30 days, 21,063 downloads. Applaud to you again. You continue to amaze us with your interest in our show, and we're very, very happy and proud of that. Now, also here on the on our table, as you know, we always add to this, and over the last week, Jason has informed me, why do we not have a Miami Dolphin hat, Miami Dolphin helmet? And why would we have a Miami Dolphin helmet? We don't like the Miami Dolphins. And he informed me that his and my first ever professional football game that we attended together was the Miami Dolphins. Thanksgiving Day, 1993, and there that little beauty is. Unfortunately, with Jason's bad luck, no matter that, Dallas even had the game won and still couldn't win it. If you remember Thanksgiving 1993, it was a fantastic day that turned cold, and by the time that game was over with, it was snowing like crazy. A fiasco play there at the end of the game with a blocked punt. You need to go back and check it out, and one of our guys wasn't using his head. He touched the ball, and the Dolphins kicked a field goal with 1 second to go, and Jason cried all the way home. All right, maybe that's an exaggeration, but nevertheless, let's see, Jason, 1993, you were what, 12 years old? So does that sound right? Was you 12?
Yeah, roughly 12.
Okay, so that means I was 25. Oh, we were young pups. Young pups. Now we're not old, just older, and still young pups. So, you know, speaking of the Dallas Cowboys and where we're leading into today, today's topic is get over yourself. A very interesting topic, and probably for several years, if not many, I had that my problem myself of getting over myself. And so many of us to this day do have that problem. And most of the time we just are not we have no self-awareness, and we're not aware of the things that we are doing, which brings you into getting over yourself. And it's kind of like that Dallas Cowboy front office. They've had a very difficult time over the last 3 decades of getting over themselves because they believe they are the smartest person in the room, which leads us into this topic. You need to stop trying to be the smartest person in the room. Everybody walks in and you think that everybody wants to listen to you. You think everybody's there to see what you've got to say. And frankly, that's just not the case. You need to get over yourself. You're not the smartest person in the room. There are topics that you are extremely intelligent on. So stay with your guidelines, you know, those staying in your lane type attitude. You are smart and you know things, but you don't know everything. You're not the smartest person in the room on every topic. Get over yourself. Another point on this particular topic is start looking for the positives in people instead of their faults. And I would say 80% of our nation, if not more, has a problem with that. We turn on the news. We're looking for negativity. We're not looking for a success story or something that's going on in the world that's of great pleasure to people. We're looking for some negativity. Let's trash on the president. Let's trash on the government. Let's trash on international politics, all the things, Russia, China. And I'm not saying that those things don't have negativity, because they do. But let's get off of that and let's focus on something that is more important, that can lead us into a better and proper state of mind. It's like, you know, you surround yourself with negativity, you're going to be negative. Let's start trying to find the positives in people so that we all can live a better day. And frankly, one of the things that I have been working on over the last 18 to 36 months, the last 2 to 3 years, let's say, is removing those negative people in my life. And some of those negative people are very, very close to me and have been for a long time. and their negative comments and their negative nature, their negative attitude will then get you into a discussion and you become more negative than they are. And the way that you guard yourself from that is just like the alcoholic. You don't need to be going down to the beer joint if you have an alcoholism problem. If you are a recovering alcoholic, you're probably not hanging out down there every Friday and Saturday night. It goes the same way with negative people. If you're working on getting negativity out of your life, you probably don't need to hang around with negative people. And so that's a thought in itself, and I think you should consider that. Another principle on get over yourself. You don't have to have an opinion on every conversation. Once again, it goes into exactly what's being the smartest person in the room. Every conversation that comes up, you have to have something to say. Whether you know anything about it or not, you become and you have an opinion. You know, that you don't have to have an opinion on every subject, but every conversation that comes up, you have an opinion on it. It does not matter if it's religion, if it's politics, if it's sports, you have an opinion. And most of these topics you don't have nothing in common with. You don't even watch sports. You don't even watch the TV. You don't even know who the president and the vice president of the United States is, but you always have an opinion. What's really interesting is you always have an opinion on how people should raise their kids, what doctor they should go to. How many people out there know millions and millions and millions of doctors that do not have a doctorate degree, do not have an MD? They never spent one class outside of the science class in high school to have anything to do with medical profession. A whole bunch of you, but everybody has doctors in their family. They don't have degrees, but they have doctors, and those doctors have opinions. See, a doctor that's not really a doctor has an opinion. A doctor that really is a doctor, an MD, a chiropractor, etc., they don't have an opinion. They have a resolution. They can resolve your issues. These other doctors that live in your world and live in your life, they have opinions. So we have to work on that. We have to stay out of conversations. Everybody knows how to cure cancer, but we haven't cured it yet. Everybody knows how you should be eating, but you look at them and they're in the buffet line every Friday night. Nevertheless, I love buffet too. But, it has to be not in a mass production of going out and eating everything on the smorgasbord. Everybody has accountants in their life. And I've told this story before, but it's my favorite part about tax season is all of the opinions and all of the tax laws that come into this office that have no bearing whatsoever on anything to do with taxes. I even heard one this week that the person is being claimed by someone else. So since that person's not claiming themselves, they shouldn't have to file a tax return, even though they have almost $10,000 in interest and dividends. They sold $150,000 worth of stock. They get Social Security, but they don't need to be filing a tax return because they didn't claim themselves. They live with me. I take care of them. I'm the head of household, et cetera, et cetera. People just don't understand, but they're accountants and they have all the tax laws and they have it all figured out. And like I was saying, one of my favorite is coming into tax season and coming out of the holidays. Everyone's favorite aunt and uncle, everyone's favorite family member has an opinion and can tell you exactly what you should be doing on your taxes come January, February. And what they're talking about, they have no idea. They have zero common sense going into what they even say. It's not even believable, but they'll convince themselves that they know exactly what they're talking about. Another topic that everybody has an opinion on is the legal system. Everybody has a lawyer in their family. Now, you got a whole bunch of family members, maybe all of them, that have never been to law school, but everybody has a lawyer, and everybody can tell you how to get out of that situation, and everybody can tell you how to resolve that predicament with the father or mother of your children that you're now divorced from. Everybody has an opinion on how you're going to resolve this legal boundary issue that you have on your real estate property with your next door neighbor. On and on and on. Everybody knows everything, and at the end of the day, they don't. You don't have to have an opinion on every conversation that you get involved in. You don't have to have an opinion on every conversation that you hear. The best learners in the world are the best listeners. And if you'll sit back and you'll listen, you will hear a whole lot of things of what not to do. It's very entertaining if you'll just shut up and listen. It is very entertaining about the things you continue to hear. And just like with me, I used to argue with people that had those opinions. I used to argue with clients that walked in here and told me what they think they should be getting to do on their taxes. And now I just shake my head. Okay, yeah, that's good. And that's the end of it. See, if you don't argue with somebody, it's very hard for them to continue to discuss their ridiculous opinion. Stay out of conversations. Start working on positivity and don't have an opinion on every conversation. Now, here's one that I know all of you can relate to with these principles of get over yourself. When someone starts telling a story, it doesn't have to end with your story. Why don't you let them dwell in their moment for a minute? Why don't you let them dwell in how little Johnny went out and got the MVP trophy? Because what happens is the person that's telling the story that they want to talk about the great accolades of their family, they get to talk for about 2 minutes, and then you're going to butt in because your children did the same thing. And their little old story that took 60 to 90 seconds, you now spend the next 10 minutes telling how great your children are, when all they did was want to talk about how great theirs was. Let them have the spotlight for a minute. It happens all the time. Hey, how you feeling? How's your health? And you get to talk about your health for 30 seconds, and then you get to hear about their health for the next 10 minutes. Now, everybody's smiling right now because they know this person. Make sure you don't know that person by looking in the mirror. Make sure that person is not you. Yes, we just have to tolerate those things. Tell it to the hand, shut it down, walk away, whatever it is. But you all know you don't have to end someone else's story with your story. It's a big deal. And I think it's funny. I once again, if you'll just be quiet and listen, you'll get some extremely free entertainment. And hey, at the end of the day, that's all we're about. We just want to have a happy life and be entertained. And some of the best people that can entertain you in the world is free. It's your family and your friends. They are the most entertaining people because they have the craziest ideas and the least amount of common sense in most cases. So just think about that whenever you're listening and someone asks you about your health. What the answer is, it's going to be coming back. And of course, anything you tell about the greatness of your situation, something you did great, something your family did great, something your friends did great, you know that the person you're talking to probably has a story that they're going to try to up you on. It's not intentional, but it happens because people just can't help themselves. And those of you who may be listening right now and some of this stuff is hitting home with you, is it because you're that person? You can relate to some of these things. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Frances was talking to her about her little boy the other day. And then I told her about my 2 kids for the next 20 minutes. Oh my gosh. I asked her about her health. And then I told her about all my problems down to my little pinky hurting for the next 20 minutes. Maybe I'm that person. Okay. So maybe you need to change. People need to change. And you can't change until you identify your problem. Okay. So you've identified, you've heard some of these things, you realize it may even be you. And we talk about personal growth quite often on this show. It's a very popular topic of ours. But now you've identified that you need to make change. Now, what's worse about making change is if you've identified with it and you won't change. See, when you don't change, maybe it's because you don't have the information. Maybe it's because you can't realize and come to the conclusion that maybe you're the problem. So you don't change. But when you do come to this realization and you do hit yourself in the head, you do look in the mirror and say it may be about me, and then you won't change because you just don't want to. You're going to control every conversation. You're going to be the smartest person in the room. You're going to have an opinion on every subject. You know everything about everything, and you're just that person. And I'll tell you what that word is to that person. It's misery. Because you have no self-esteem, you have no confidence, you have nothing going on in your world except for you. I can honestly say that there's been times that I have been that same situation. I was talking one time in not a most respectful way to my mother. And this is probably 15 years ago. And she said, "You better watch out or I'm going to come over there and knock you off that high horse you ride on every day." And that was definitely a statement, looking back on it, that was, get over yourself. And that was exactly right. And of course, I'm very, very proud and happy to say let's just say 15 years later, that I totally understand and comprehend what she was saying. But at that time, I was mad at her. And the reason I was mad is because she was telling me exactly what I was doing and what I didn't want to hear. So doing the right things and staying within your principles, and hopefully you do have principles, but doing the right things and staying on track with what you actually do and what you believe in and standing up for what is right. That's another subject and another topic that we'll talk about on another day, because people have a big problem with that. People don't stand up for what is right. People stand up for what's best for them. And there is a huge difference. You would think that what's best for me is what's right. And that's not hardly the case, folks. But we'll save that for another day. And maybe a rainy day, so you'll have to sit at home and do something besides go outside, and that means you get to listen to me. And maybe that's what we'll do, is coerce you into doing that. But don't change, won't change, and staying away from your principles and philosophies, those are the kind of things that will get you into get over yourself. It's an interesting 3 words. Get over yourself. Work on that and think about those things. And of course, always at Money, Motivation, and Mike, we try to bring some of these things to you to identify and help you understand maybe what is going right and what is going wrong in your life. And of course, we have comments and questions every week, and we try to address those things. And fortunately for us, with the downloads and the audience that we are now having, it's a little bit more difficult to get back to you, but I promise we will. And as you know, you can always reach us, info@mx3.vip. Go to our website, mx3.vip, or go to our YouTube channel, because all of you want to know what I look like, and now you can see that as the YouTube channel is continuing to revolve, and our studio is continuing to get more and more character and development in it. Of course, that is all about Jason. And so youtube.com/an MX3 podcast. And as a matter of fact, on the Jason subject, and I think from your listening audience over the last several months or since the inception of this show, because it's always been he and I in this room, and of course our guest. And when we go out on location, like we did last December to the Florida area, it was he and I continuing to do those shows with our special guest that had a whole lot to do with finance. But it's ironic, our podcast room, our podcast, and our YouTube studio is right here in the M.W. Wright and Company offices in Denison, Texas. And so people come up and down the hallway, and they look in the room and they want to know what's going on if they don't already know. And of course, right now during tax season, we have a lot of people coming in and out of the office, and I average on a weekly basis roughly 50 appointments. So there's a lot of traffic going up and down the hallway and looking into the podcast room. So they start asking, what are you doing with this studio? And then we get into those conversations. And then the next question will be, how hard and how difficult is it to direct and produce and put a show together? And I'm very fortunate to be able to say, I don't really know. I show up, I talk, and I leave. So you need to email info@mx3.vip, and you need to ask Jason. Jason's shaking his head up and down. He's the one that stays up late and makes me sound good. He's the one that stays up and does all the editing. And I know I do such a great job of doing the show. He don't have a whole lot to do in the evenings, but I got a feeling that's probably not really the case. So kudos to Jason. He's a big part of the show. He's a big part of what we do here. And as far as I'm concerned, always will be. He's has a whole lot to do with the fact of the 21,000 downloads we've had over the last 30 days that continues to grow on a daily basis, on almost an hourly basis. So certainly appreciate your input and comments and all the thoughts that go into this show. I frankly do. Show up, do the show, talk. I come in, I put on the headset, I get the mic squared away. He's got everything else ready to go. I have my notes. I've done prep work. I sit down and do the deal, and I'm gone. I'm back to doing whatever it is. Within minutes after this show is over. And he takes care of the rest. So thank you so much, Jason. And as always, Here at Money Motivation Mike, we're always bringing you good stuff. Certainly I feel that way, and of course the audience does as well, as the numbers continue to show it. And we will continue to do those things. Now, one thing we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks is tax season. The March 15th deadline has passed for businesses. Now, remember, right now, the tax deadline for individuals has been extended just a couple of days. It's March 18th. The 15th falls on the weekend. They're not requiring it to be on Monday the 17th. We are going to April the 18th. April the 18th is a Tuesday. That's your deadline. If you're e-filing, you have till midnight. If you're not, then obviously you need to have it postmarked before the end of the day at your local post office. So make sure that you are aware of that date. You got another weekend of being able to grind it out. So that also doesn't mean you need to wait till that weekend, but sometimes that's the way it works out. Thank you so much once again for all your support. Please contact us, all the information. Go to our YouTube channel and make sure you don't forget to do our likes and subscribes so we continue to increase our audience and our location and content on their website. So for all those involved in this one, until next time, live your life the right way.